Hey y'all, welcome to the last episode of Adventures with AWA Road to Tokyo. For now, we might revisit this theme in the future. We have Jamal Hill. Jamal is a Paralympic swimmer, and he's also the founder of the Swim Uphill Foundation. He's going to share his story about how he became a professional swimmer and the importance of why people need to know how to swim, which is kind of the mission of the Swim Uphill Foundation. So he's going to share a lot more about that and all of the awesome things that he's done so far. So please welcome Jamal. Jamal, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning.
Good morning. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited that you're here. Just to kind of get going, I would love for you to give me some background, maybe where you're from and what you do.
Absolutely. So Jamal James Hill, I'll give you the middle name, right? Jamal James Hill for government here. I'm from Inglewood, California. I am a professional swimmer, Paralympic hopeful for Tokyo 2021. Currently ranked number one in the nation for a few events, top 10 in the world for the 50-meter freestyle. Outside of being a pro swimmer, training hard, I run a nonprofit. So businessman in every sense of the word. Personal brand, a brand for kind of public works and service. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell, right there.
You're like, oh, that's all. I just do all these
Yeah.
really cool things, but that's it. Awesome. So I think my favorite question that I ask when I speak to athletes of any kind is like, why do you do your sport? So how did you get into swimming? Why is this your thing? What keeps you going?
For sure, absolutely. That's a great question. I'm sure probably this answer is pretty common. Like, it's the first sport I ever did, and I happened to be good at it. That's pretty much it. Like, um, so I started swimming mommy and me. Uh, so like literally, outside of walking, the first like I guess real structured activity I've done. My mom didn't know how to swim when I was a kid, or like didn't know how to swim well, so it was just kind of up to her, honestly. Like most parents, right? Like, well, this kid's gonna know how to swim. So I came up in the YMCA mommy and me system, took swim lessons, and then like around, I don't know, like somewhere between 5 and 7, I was like, I've been swimming. I'm looking at across the pool at the swim team. I think I want to do that. So, like I said, somewhere in that range between 5 to 7, like probably like 6. We'll call it 6. I joined the swim team, and I swam on the swim team, youth sports swim team from 6 to 10 years old. Yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun. Honestly, I say this a lot. I still probably have more medals from that 3 to 4 year span than I do from my professional career at this point. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I do think it is a pretty common answer. Like I tried it, I was good at it, I stuck with it. But that's so cool though that it was a mommy and me thing. I think I did a daddy and me thing for motorsports and stuff. I used to
Oh,
go to race
cool.
camps with my dad. And it was fun. I definitely had my series of crashes and but some winning.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, I was killing it. Same age, like 8, maybe 7 or 8 years old. But it's always fun, I think, when the parents there, mommy and me programs, daddy and me programs.
Yeah,
Cool
that's
stuff.
sick, honestly. Like, I'm low key a little bit envious now. I've always wanted to be like, I don't think I ever had like necessarily all the skills for it, but I've always wanted to be like an extreme sports person.
Yeah.
Someone who could like, ride dirt bikes, do backflips, like take the mega ramp on a skateboard. Like, can't even kick push on a skateboard to this day, but like always like nitro circus, all that stuff. I loved it. So
Yeah.
that's super sick.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think I'm coordinated enough to be a skateboarder, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try it one day, but it sounds
Yeah,
it sounds hard. Not my thing.
I think it's hard.
Yeah, definitely. I will say you're killing it in the swimming space though. I Swimming is not my thing. I think I did one summer of like swim team in my local neighborhood. Um, the 6 a.m. practices over the summer were not my favorite situation I've been in, but it was a really cool learning experience because now I have a really high appreciation for people who swim all the time. Yeah, it wasn't my thing. I don't know. I love going to the pool,
not really racing in the pool. That's not my forte, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, props to you
No,
for doing it all the time.
no, I will. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But important to say that like most of my career has not been 6 a.m. practices. Probably like obviously like as an age group somewhere up until 10, we definitely were not doing 6 a.m. practices. That
Yeah,
would be crazy. And then I took a big hiatus from swimming from 10 to 16 because of my neuropathy. We'll get into that. And then in high school, from like again, even in high school, from sophomore year to senior year, they were non-morning practices. It's like seventh period practice. The only time I was up early was in college, honestly.
yeah,
Yeah, from freshman and junior year of college before I dropped out, um, or no, I didn't drop out before I deferred enrollment.
right.
Um, that
Yeah,
was the only time that I was really getting up super early, and I was not good at that at all. Like getting up at 6 after having stayed up until definitely midnight. You know how it is in
right.
college. Like I was not on a solid sleep schedule. Yeah, so I don't know. Post grad though, like I made sure now that I'm an adult and I kind of control a lot of this stuff, we're not having 6 a.m. practices. The earliest we were having was like, I guess it's not that much better, like 7 a.m., but it's a big difference.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that 1 hour.
that 1 hour, right? That 1 hour. But definitely, hopefully as we move back into a more regular training schedule, we'll be able to have it like something more reasonable, something between 8 and noon. Honestly, it's better for
Yeah,
me. So fingers crossed.
definitely. I hope you get those extra few hours of sleep.
Man, it's important. Otherwise, I'll just have to go to bed on time.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, let's move into your college career and your swimming in college. I guess at what point did you realize that you wanted to be a professional swimmer? Was it during this time when you were swimming with your team in college, or I guess how did that work out for you?
for sure. Yeah, it was actually pretty crazy. I decided I wanted to be a professional swimmer my junior year of college. Um, it was after championships junior year, so in college, championships would fall right around like February, right around Valentine's Day. So this is Valentine's Day of 2016. And we go to championships. My family flies out to Ohio. That's where I'm in school at. And they're here to support. They're here to watch a show, as everyone always is. And it went terrible. Honestly, it went terrible. Like I had spent 3 years away at college. I was like barely. People can't see me, but I'm doing like one of those tiny pincher motions with my fingers. This much better, like a very small amount better than I was in high school. Didn't make any finals. Didn't win any heats. Looked terrible on camera. Just kind of like my swim stroke looked like very unrefined, very just like uncritiqued up until that point, and it broke my heart. Literally, I never felt so embarrassed. Like I cried all the way back to school. A little 3 4 hour trip back to school after we had spent the weekend there, and I was in like a little mini depression for a couple days. And I was just thinking to myself, like, dang man, like if this is hitting you this hard, like I was taking it pretty hard. I was like, if this is like really making you this sad, like you probably really care about this. Maybe you should just try and make this your job. Like maybe this should just be your career. And that's literally how it happened. I was like, it was born out of heartbreak and pain. It's like I was pained so much that I knew I had feelings. And and that's what led me to say, all right, I'm gonna just go in for it. And so as a junior in high school, completely unranked, completely unknown, literally on like a whim and a prayer, decided I'm gonna be a pro swimmer.
That's awesome. I mean, it stinks that you were like super upset about it and stuff, but I'm glad you had that like turning point, right? Where you were like, oh, I love this,
Yeah,
Sometimes it takes that, the not so great
right.
time to turn yourself around and realize, oh, I really care about this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's so
Look,
awesome.
that's it, man. It's kind of like, I mean, like obviously, like people. I don't know. It's like people, like sometimes you don't realize a good thing or a good relationship until it's gone. So it's like I was
Right.
like, man, like maybe I've been neglecting this thing. Like, it
Yeah.
obviously matters a lot more to me than I realized.
Definitely, definitely. Awesome. Well, let's move into your training schedule now. I know you're working
Yeah,
with Wilma Wong. I would love to hear how y'all connected and
sure.
what your training is like right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Malone, that's my ace. That's my coach. That's my business partner. We met 2017, so that's a year after I dropped out. And during that year in between, I started training with University of Southern California Trojans. So I started training with their pro team, and I trained with them for a year, trained with the coaching staff over there for a year, world-renowned coaching staff. But it just still wasn't the place for me. And pretty much I met Wilma at a swim meet actually through another swimmer. So like I swam against this really fast dude named Luke, right? He's my homie now. And after the race, we're just talking, like I've gotten my swim trunks beat off of me. We're just talking and like I'm telling him my story. I just came from US and he's like, oh, no kidding, man. Like I was at USC for a minute and we just had like a lot of synergies in this kind of unconventional path trying to get to at this point, my mind was set on the Olympics, right? Like trying to get to the Olympics or at least make an Olympic trial, make a real go at it. And so he's like, dude, you got to meet my coach. And so that's what happens. Like he literally walks me over to his coach. And from there, it's just kind of like, we have a little mini interview on deck. I tell her my goal. She's like, I can probably help you get there. And kind of over the next 6 months, like I started to go to their practices. I started to take car rides, and just kind of learn these people. And then, now here we are 3 years later, with a few international medals, our own swim team, and we're still just chugging away. I know you said my workout schedule right now, right? What's that kind of like? So, COVID is tough. So we had our own facility. It was an indoor facility that's been shut down since March. You can only be at outdoor facilities. So from March to like August, I think I was in backyard pools for a little bit. It did not really work out all that well in backyard pools. Like you can do some stuff, but it's just very demotivating, honestly. Like after a while, I'll just go to a backyard pool because I'm a fish. Like I need to be in the water, but it like really is not something that like puts you confidence in your training. So I was in the backyard pool scene for a little bit. One of my mentors and great friends actually is the owner of Vasa. So pretty much I was able to get my hands on a Vasa swim machine. Do you know what that is, Aggie?
I've heard of it. I can't say I've ever used one.
I've been training on that for the past 4 months and really starting, I guess like October, November, we were able to get in at an outdoor pool. So we were having actually 12:30 practices. We were having 12:30 practices. But then I had to go to Utah a couple times. So like I haven't been in the pool for a month now because every time I went to Utah, I had to quarantine for
Right.
12 to 14 days. So right now, I use my indoor swim machine. I stretch. I use an X3 bar. If people know what
Mhm.
X3 bar is, I use X3, and I do a lot of mental training. I play like a card game, and like on each card is like a scenario that could happen to me at a race. Like I might
Right.
pull a card and it will say, "You woke up today and you had food poisoning last night, so you feel very sick, but you still have to race." Like pretty much just anything could happen, just trying
Yeah.
to be ready for anything. So that's what it's like these days.
Yeah, definitely. That's that machine's awesome. I'm glad you have that because I spoke with someone I was speaking with someone about this and I was like there aren't very many like substitutes for a pool.
Mm,
Like runners,
yeah,
okay, you don't have a treadmill or something, you run on the street, but like you can't like swim on the street.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess like I was wondering before we were speaking about this, like how do you like make those substitutes and stuff?
yeah,
But it sounds like you've got the resources and things to do that.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Thankfully,
which is
thank
awesome.
God.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't know, COVID seems to shut down lots of pools, at least in my area, and
Yeah,
um, it's that's hard. Like if that's your thing, like how do you do it? I guess you
good.
get an indoor swim machine. That seems to be the
Get
answer.
an indoor swim machine. Yeah, I definitely am not in a position to be putting an outdoor swimming pool up just because COVID happened.
Right.
Yeah, especially like having the heat and everything on. Some people I know tried it. I'm like, nah, dude. That's like, if you're gonna do it, you gotta just get a pool. Don't get like one of those above ground. Like it's gotta be official. Gotta be legit. So I don't know. I guess I'm a bit pretentious for that, but it's just out of my range at this point.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, let's kind of go into your journey. I know you've had some ups and downs and things. I guess COVID is just one of those many obstacles that you've been able to overcome. I guess how, like, your story, how did swimming and like this mindset that you're speaking of right now, you do these mind games and stuff to kind of keep you going and pushing yourself. Um, I guess how did you keep the Olympics in sight through all of these obstacles that you've overcome?
For sure. Well, like I kind of like since I decided, 2016 to do it, and then 2018 when I was, air quotes, came out of the closet with my disability and like made focusing on the Paralympics and was able to join that movement. Um, to be quite frank, like I love swimming, like I was doing it literally when I wasn't good at it, literally when nobody knew about it. That's
Right.
actually when I decided to make it a career. It's like there's no doubt that I love what I'm doing, but the motivation is like for me, all of this stuff is like a means to an end, Aggie. Uh, you know, um, I definitely wanted my swimming to impact people's lives as best as it could, which led me to begin my nonprofit as
Hmm.
soon as I made my first national team, and we're working to teach people how to swim. Hopefully we'll hit a million number in these first 5 years, just
Yeah.
through our educational resources. But ultimately, like what motivates me is the platform that I've been able to build and the platform that is still there for me to rise to, and really just not only be able to be an inspiration, but like be able to be an example of, I guess like more than just like I guess what maybe America as a whole needs, and in a lot
Yeah.
of ways like what my community needs, like what Black people need to see. I think like
Yeah.
seeing being able to see a professional swimmer is like just a regular like down to earth guys from like the inner city, what I'm saying, like
Mhm.
it's not that far off base, to show kids that like whatever it is that we can be, that to bring awareness, to be able to honestly like have some type of social power, to be able to influence
Yeah.
politics, to some point, to be able to offer job opportunities in my community, to be able to start to offer different pathways for generating wealth and understanding business. um so it's kind of like this cacophony,
Yeah.
not even a cacophony, I would say, just like all of us, right? There's an intersection of identities, that make up us as a person. And so, swimming is kind of like, if anything, just swimming Team USA, like that's the figurehead of Jamal,
Right.
right? Like that's just kind of the face that gets me into doors. But that's the motivation, like everything behind that face, all of these like unsung heroes and reasons, and like my advisors and my parents and my friends and my family, all these individuals who have invested so much, like that's what wakes me up, well, God wakes me up, but like that's what keeps me going after I've woken up, and like just
Yeah.
like I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that was a bit long-winded.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I I think right like now more than ever, people are talking about the power of the athlete platform. Like
Mm,
people love their athletes because they love the sport that they do or they love whatever it is that they're like your foundation or something like that, you know? But
mm,
now I think people realize this, right? Like with the whole influencer culture and stuff.
yeah,
But now athletes can take a stance on anything and like a significant amount of people are going to see it, which
yeah,
maybe that's also like social media and broadcasting and all that stuff coming into play. But
yeah,
athletes have power. It's so cool. And I think it's awesome. We've seen that a lot this year with exactly what you're talking about. But the athlete platform, I've been to so many events too, and I've worked on so many events called the athlete platform or
athlete
something like that.
platform.
The
That sounds
impact
so
of an
dope.
athlete.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's
cool.
it's major. It's major, I mean, it's like, and it's no secret, right? Like athletes are, they are. I guess like it's a bit archaic, but like they are the gladiators, right? Like they are the superheroes of physical prowess,
Yep.
regardless, Olympic, Paralympic, and I mean, obviously, like as humans, a lot of us still look up to like physical prowess as something to ascertain, something to
Mhm.
make us feel as though like we can keep going, right? Whether we think we're strong, that strong or not, like this perseverance, this journey, this hero's journey, right? That we assume all athletes, especially the ones that reach the higher levels, they've gone through, and like that speaks to something in us, just like any entertainment form, just like a musician, just like an actor or something like that. So yeah, it's a great time. I think it's a better time than any to be an athlete at this time. And I think so just because like there's more responsibility than ever to be an
Yep.
athlete. Like, it's like I tell people all the time, like they ask me this and I was like, yeah, I love swimming, but like all the stuff I'm doing is not just because of swimming. Like all the stuff that these athletes are doing, it's not just because of basketball. It's not just because of track. It's not just because of field hockey, or because of soccer, because of non-American football, whatever you have. You like it's because I think again, like people are starting to realize that like not only do I have a platform, but I am more valuable than just the sport that I play at this given time. Like my identity is not just stuck into this ball right here or this arena, right? Like I can be celebrated and I deserve to be loved and I deserve to give love even beyond whatever I do or don't win on the field of competition. So yeah, it's really glad. Like I think it's calling a higher level. So like I think there may be in some ways maybe like less athletes that are in the even though like it's a broader spectrum now, like even
Yeah.
though there are all these athletes, like we'll obviously have a much larger pool of like micro to medium, will be influencer athletes. I think that'll be big, but I think like the upper echelon of athletes will, not increase by a whole lot. But what I do think is going to increase is like their integrity, their awareness,
Right.
their leadership capabilities outside of just being an individual champion.
Definitely. Yeah, I think social responsibility and like just athletes being human has become so much, I guess, more common to see like on social media.
It's kind
Or,
of weird to say,
like you think
right?
they're robots, right? Like you see
Right.
people like an extreme example like Ronaldo. Okay,
Mhm.
like he's a
Yeah.
robot. Like yes, we can tell like he gets into his mindset and like he's on fire, he's going, he's great. But like he also has opinions on
Yeah.
social issues and stuff and like he's allowed to say those things because he's a man like a
Exactly.
human too. Um yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's crazy that it took so many terrible things in
Yeah.
2020 for that to become a regular thing for athletes to talk about. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It
for sure. I
it
mean,
happened.
for more than athletes, for anyone to talk
Yeah,
about it. Like this, what I'm saying? Like what happened in 2020 wasn't just not being spoken about by athletes. Like
sure.
nobody was speaking about it. It was just even more so taboo for an athlete because they did have this platform and
Right.
because if they were fearful that that platform could just be taken away if they opened their mouth.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
it's good. It is crazy.
It-
It's crazy to say this, right? Like, oh yeah, all this was good. If we had had this interview
Yeah,
this time last year, it would be a completely different talk.
yeah,
Like, it would be a completely different talk.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's a crazy year, but lots of good things coming, I guess, within the next year, hopefully. So let's move into Tokyo. I see your Tokyo. What is that? A scarf behind your head? Um,
It's a towel.
Towel. I love it.
It's a towel. I
Uh,
got don't
yeah,
tell anyone. I've not been to Japan, but one of my friends was, and they brought this back for me.
I love that. I love it. Cool. Well, I've been asking many athletes this, but what does the road to Tokyo mean to you? Like I always say to me, it's like super fun commercials, lots of hype on like Twitter and stuff like that, cool content because I'm not training to compete. But yeah, so I guess what does the road to Tokyo mean to you?
The road to Tokyo is just like step one of four for me. So like really kind of my narrative arc is Tokyo, Paris, Los Angeles. So 2021, 2024, 2028. Obviously, I have career milestones lined up with that in the pool. Like making the team is an important first step. So like nothing is guaranteed. You have to make the team before you can make the podium. So that's a big first step just in the pool. Again, just always kind of evolving as an athlete, understanding what I need to do, like as a racer, still being very young in the pro sports scene, even in the sports scene. Like I've been swimming full time for like what, since 2016, so like 4.5 years now, which is pretty minuscule comparatively to, but that I think that's like pretty much it, man. Like it's something I've been training for a long time, and I'm focused on it. But at the same pace, it's like it's an experiment, like, and at the same pace, like how I kind of play those mind games. Like, yeah, I want to be prepared for everything, which is why there's some crazy stuff written on those cards. Because it's like at a certain point, you have to like you just gotta let go of the ego. I think like that's a big thing for me. Like obviously I want to envision myself on the podium and things like that, but so much is out of my control. So much is, just COVID can happen, so I just try and take it not too serious now these days, like I don't really think about it too much. Like I have a job to do and I just take it day by day. Outside of the pool, that same narrative arc is like really what's driving my brand, on the for-profit side and on the nonprofit side. Like obviously in the nonprofit leading up into Tokyo, I'll have on like my boss hat and I will be producing a lot of this stuff that you experience as a consumer, like, or we all are consumers in this world, but like, as someone not actively training for Tokyo themselves, so like Summer Olympics is massive for swimming, right? So like with our initiatives to teach a million people how to swim, we'll be ramping up a lot of our programs, a lot of the match, just trying to garner a lot of that media and hype. And then, yeah, like hopefully as we get closer to Tokyo, maybe one or two sponsorships hop on as to me as an athlete and an influencer. Um, and that's kind of it. Like at this point in my career, it's like I kind of been like doing this entrepreneurship thing for, literally like 4 or 5 years now. So it's like you kind of like you don't like lose like the sparkle in your eye, but like you just kind of realize like at this point, like nothing is really about to make or break me. Like success doesn't happen overnight. It's like no, you grind it out for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then after night number 759 and it turns over to night 800, oh, now you're on this larger platform and the world hears about you and they think it's overnight. But that's just not the reality of it. So kind of at this point, I'm humbled. I just kind of feel like, I just take everything with stride and with grace. And yeah, I'm not really looking for any one thing to like make and break this. At this point, it's like it's been Jamal and God that have brought it this far, and so ultimately, that's what will continue to push it forward. And ultimately, that's the only things that can really stop it at this point. So I don't know. It's probably an unconventional answer, but yeah, that's kind of what it's like right now as we move into 2021, and I got my eyes on Tokyo.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a little bit of an unconventional answer, but it shows
Yeah.
you've got a lot going on still. Like it's training, focus, and like business. That's a huge
Yeah.
part of it too. That I think a lot of people kind of glaze over. Like they just expect athletes like be in the pool all the time, working on their
Yeah.
technique and stuff like that. But no, like creating a brand and you've got a
Yeah,
nonprofit and
yeah,
a
for
lot.
sure. I mean, I know there are gonna be like a lot of, like you said, a lot of college age people listening to this, and whether you're an athlete or not, or a scientist. I was a physics major in college.
Okay.
So like I got sides to me, like like we're all people, you know what I'm saying, like so without like doing the whole archaic, like don't put me in a box type deal, I would just say that just you got to understand with anything, like especially as an athlete, because that's kind of what this is focused on, especially as an athlete, especially as a swimmer, like you're gonna have to think like number one, as a swimmer, to make the Olympic team, in an event, there's only gonna be two spots per event. So
Right.
like we're talking about beyond the one, you got a better chance of getting into the NBA than you do of making an Olympic swimming team. And we all know, we've all heard the stats our entire life about getting into the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Like that's number one. Number two, if you make that swimming team, like swimming does not pay well. So, like
Sure.
the number of people that you can name that are swimmers are probably the people who have made like a substantial income off swimming. So like
Definitely.
you could probably count that definitely on 10 fingers, and I promise you there's been way more than those people who have won Olympic gold medals in swimming or any other kind of like air quotes secondary sport. So it's important really to understand the necessity of building a brand, of really developing skills outside of the pool, developing communication skills, developing
Right.
sales skills, developing leadership organization skills. Because one thing that I just kind of started to tell myself is just that like the biggest fish in the biggest fish ain't always the fastest fish. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
the shark, let's just, like the shark, let's say the shark is the apex predator of the ocean, but the black marlin is the fastest fish in the ocean, right? Like, I think sometimes even as athletes, especially again, like in a competitive sport where it is pretty like pretty non-objective, right? Like there's a first, a second, a third, like, and it depends on what order you finish in. Like, it's like it's got nothing to do with your free throw percentage, nothing like that. So like people can get caught up in like, dang, like I'm not the fastest. Like there's no way that I have an option of being great. And
Right.
that's just one thing that I tell myself. It's like, being and again kind of what that means is you don't got to be number one. Like obviously we're
Right.
all chasing number one. That's kind of what we're in it for. Not in it totally, but yeah, I would be lying if I said I didn't want to win, right? You would be lying if you said you didn't want. We all like to be number one, right? There's no secret there. But again, like when you are able to like unlock these other dimensions of self and really like just embrace this more robust individual that you are, pretty much like your character starts to grow, right? And so like now you are growing inside, you're growing in gravity. And so the things that are going to be attracted to you, especially in this new world, are going to be in some ways maybe even bigger than being on that podium, whether you make it to that podium or not, So
Sure.
that's it. Just wanted to leave you with that, like
Yeah.
the biggest fish ain't always the fastest fish. You can still eat good, have a great life, and do what you love, even if you are not the absolute best, in a race, right? You can be the best you, right? Like the
Mhm.
shark is the best shark and the marlin is the best marlin, right? They don't race like that. Even if we tried to put them in a race, we could not judge either of their value just off of who crossed that line first, So
Definitely.
that's it. Make sure that you build your life's resume, have adventures, get skills. You got to get skills. You got to get skills. You got to get skills. Like you got to get skills. You got to get skills. you got to get skills. I can't say it enough just because like
Yes.
that's what's going to make you indisposable in this world. That's what's going to allow you to, if
Right.
you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to work for someone else or you want to do your own thing, like ultimately, like that's what that's going to come from. You have to have some type of knowledge base, something that can be converted, something that is valuable, whether that's on the computer, whether that's physical labor. Get some skills. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. And I love all of your fish metaphors. It's making me so happy.
Right, right, right. I try and stay on theme.
I love that. So cool. Awesome. Well, just to kind of wrap up, we've talked about your foundation, Swim Uphill, but I don't think we've actually talked about it. Um,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of tell me how you started it and what you're doing now? I know you've already talked about a lot of this, but just to talk about it specifically, how did this start and what's your mission?
For sure, that's a good one. So important caveat here, and I'm changing this for people. So
Mhm.
we are not a foundation. We are not a foundation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are a nonprofit organization. But just for the nerds out there, foundations are nonprofit organizations that give money away. So like they are, like your grant givers. What we do is actually we provide services, at free or discounted rates. But I just wanted to clarify that. I know
Yeah.
like our paperwork still says foundation, no big deal, but like we don't operate as a foundation, So don't you guys don't take it easy on Aggie. This is Jamal's mishap. Um, but yeah, so again, Swim Uphill nonprofit. Um, right. So our mission at this point in time is to increase swim equity in low to middle income communities using culturally and environmentally based educational resources. Um, in some ways that mission statement is going to become a little bit more acute. Like we're going to change that word equity for justice, just because I think it's super important to really hone in and to be super clear and to leave as little gray area and opaque space as possible. But this is just to give you guys the gist of it.
Sure.
So ways we've been doing that during this COVID season, we've been able to teach over 100 families worldwide, pretty much virtually. 3/5 of our Learn to Swim curriculum. So we partner with Airbnb, and we've been using a bowl, a bench, and two buckets to teach people breathing skills, to teach people, forward movement skills, things like that. And so pretty much like that is at this point in time our biggest program, our Teach a Million to Swim program. We're thinking about calling it Splash Family. That might be the name of that program. How do
Yeah.
you feel about Splash Family?
I like it. I like it.
Splash Family. What do you think about Swim for Life?
Ooh, I think I like Splash Family.
You like Splash Family a little bit more original? All right, we're polling, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, really with these educational resources, we're trying to focus on like four main things. One is just going to be the time it takes people to learn how to swim. So really just laying out a standard, average time for learning how to swim. I think that's super important. They're the time standard for cooking any specific meal. They're the time standard for any grade level, right? They're the time standard for any course that you would take. So I think it's extremely elitist and honestly just like misrepresenting, to not have a time standard for swimming. I think that turns a lot of people out. Number two is really just obviously cost is going to be a PowerPoint, and that is also kind of a function of time, right? Like however much it costs, the more time it takes, you
Right.
just multiply it by that, right? So like
Yep.
I think the industry has benefited a lot off of this like unspecified time window, and again that has excluded a large number of people. Number three is just going to be access to water, to access to water features, like access to a pool in your community. Here in Los Angeles County, like in Beverly Hills, there are about 3,500 pools. In Watts, there's zero pools.
Mhm.
So like that just kind of goes to show you how even though we are in this more enlightened time period, that we are still living in the past, if not mentally, definitely physically, in terms of access and facilities. And so again, in the meantime, while we attempt to build these pools, people still got to learn how to swim. They got to learn how to
Yeah.
swim where they are with what they've got, which is what's led us, to innovate and use these kind of household objects like bowls, benches, and buckets to meet people where they are. And then the fourth one is more of a generational aspect, and that is really kind of speaking to our older demographic, speaking to people who have traumas with water, people who are afraid of water, people who have aquaphobia, who maybe have tried to learn how to swim times in their life or have lost someone to an accidental drowning or what have you, just like have given up on it for all intents and purposes. We have some emotional kind of PTSD style training to help those people, and that's really kind of just that's the nutshell of our flagship program. We have one other program. Our secondary program is actually called the Swim Uphill Victors. That is the post pro grad team that I swim for, and that woman is the head coach of. So we kind of have like level zero, on the Teach a Million flagship program side, and then we have like level 10, on the complete opposite end. So, what happens in between there in terms of program development will be very interesting to see. But those were just, I think, two of the biggest needs that were closest to my heart. Like number one, just having
Right.
a place where we can just get people swimming quickly and effectively and efficiently, no matter what, whether it's through the internet, whatever, I don't care. And then to have a program that not only catered to my specific needs, but like catered to athletes like me who were underdogs, who just kind of wanted to have a place to come and to try their hand at their dream. And our team has athletes from all over the world right now. Like we've got an athlete from Morocco on our team. We've got 2 athletes from Russia. We've got a few California natives here,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's going good. So that is it's a bit everywhere. Forgive me, I'm usually like more more concise ordinarily
Oh,
with
that's
my
perfect.
explanation.
Awesome.
But
Yeah, no, I appreciate like that's a really great explanation that you really are encompassing everybody. And I think one thing that like I'm sure you know this, but lots of people don't think about like swimming, yeah, it's a sport, but it's also a skill that can literally save your life. Like
mhm,
people don't I don't think everybody thinks about that. Like if you live in a place where you're not like on the ocean or you're not on the beach or you're not around lakes, people don't think about it, I guess.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's definitely one of those life skills that everybody needs to know. Um,
100%. It is usually the people who like, don't have any access to a
right,
regular water feature that like find themselves around a water feature on a hot day, and then tragedy happens.
right.
So, it's this kind of like strange phenomenon that's like
Mhm.
it's the people that are farthest removed that are most at risk, you know.
Right.
So ignorance is definitely not bliss. It's very costly. Yeah. So that's it. We're just trying to simplify that, make it as simple as possible, as quick as possible, as painless as possible. And then, from there, like people could go and they could join a swim team or they could teach their own kids or, just trying to demystify this space. And that's why I had to bring it in as a nonprofit, just because I don't think that swim education at that level should be a for-profit business.
Right.
Yeah, then that's sorry,
Yeah.
sorry guys, like if you got a swim school, or something like that, I'm sure there are different levels, but
Yeah.
I definitely don't think just being able to swim to save your life should be a for-profit business. That's going to be something
Sure.
that needs to be service based.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. You're doing really awesome things. And I'm sure that all of these people that you're making an impact on really appreciate it. You know, like it's something that people probably don't realize they need. Um, but that's so cool. So just to
Absolutely.
kind of wrap up, last question for you. I always end my shows on advice. So, what is one piece of advice you would give to young Jamal who maybe doesn't know he wants to be a professional swimmer yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
One piece of advice, right? This is like that paradox, right? That paradox question. Like, if you could go back and tell yourself, like,
Yes.
are you changing the future or are you the one making the future happen, right? Like, which
Right.
one is it? um, Honestly, I would tell them, like, dude, being a kid is so tough because of peer pressure. Like, I think most kids just want to fit in really bad. And I would just tell them, like, you don't got to be a weirdo or nothing like that, but it's okay to be weird, dude. Like, kind of, like seriously, like what your parents are telling you, kind of what you already know, even though it's hard. Like, just try and be the best you that you can be, like whatever that means, man. Like, if you like to do something, then like that's what you like to do. And, like, it's really that simple. Like if you don't want to do something, you don't want to do it, and it's really that simple. Like if you think something is wrong, you think it's wrong, and it's really that simple. So it's probably like a bit understated, like but that's what I would tell him. Like it's just like the best thing for us at this point in your life is just for you to continue to be you there, son. You just like do it your way, like listen to people, like let's listen to the people that you trust, and but ultimately, like no matter what, like you can only ever make your decisions. Like no matter who gives you advice, no matter what coaching you have, like when I get up on those racing blocks, like Wilma is not there with me. Like my mom and dad are not there with me. No one is there with me. It's just me on that block. And I think like that's one thing that I love about swimming, because like it really highlights that part of life. Like so many people put in and build and like help and donate and invest, but at the end of the day, like it's still just you and God, like when the moment really comes down to it. So that's it. That's what I would tell them. Don't be a weirdo, but be weird.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think he'd appreciate the advice. I know
For
young
sure, for
young
sure.
Aggie would too.
Young Aggie with well, there it is. I'm glad, man. I'm glad because it's definitely how it is as a kid, man. It's
Yeah.
it's tough, like everyone wants to kind of be the same or like whatever the standard of the popularity is at that time, whether it's not giving a hoot or like being super scholastic or, wherever you are in the world and whatever's popular where you are, having money, not, I don't know, you feel me? Like whatever it is, just, it's really not that serious. Just like be you, do you. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, well, there's really no need to participate in it then.
Yeah,
Um, Yes,
definitely.
That's what I would leave me with. Aggie, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you for taking so much interest, not only in my story, but ultimately like in the story of millions of people through my nonprofit and the work that we're gonna do there, are doing there, and will continue to do. So, you're in the hot seat now, right, Aggie?
Of
I've
course.
got to ask you, you love the mission, you love what we're doing right here. We're being recorded on Adventures with Aggie. I need a pledge, Aggie. How much are you going to pledge to the Swim Uphill nonprofit to help us continue to embody and enact this mission?
Yeah, of course. I love Swim Uphill. I pledge $100, and I'm
Woo-hoo!
super excited.
Yes, that's lit, yo. That's so exciting. Aggie, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Wait, real quick, I'll give this to you. Is there a bonus question? Is there anything on your mind that you didn't have written down that you're just like, let me
Um,
get this last one out, Jamal?
I don't think so. Just how can people reach you if they want to get involved with
A
Swim
great
Uphill?
one. That's a great one. Yeah. So the best way is gonna be just Google swim uphill. Just Google it. Swim uphill. Swimuphill.com will be Jamal Hill's personal website. Swimuphill.org is going to be the nonprofit site. Our nonprofit actually just got a new website. It should be up in about it should be up before the new year. So whenever this comes out, you guys will be able to visit that swimuphill.org. Again, that's going to be the best way to get involved with our Splash family, where we're trying to teach a million people how to swim, with our Victors program. With kind of boss Jamal wearing his hat there, that's going to be the best way. And then anything kind of athletics on the brand side, swimuphill.com, swimuphill on Instagram. That's probably like my main social media handle. If you DM me at swimuphill on Instagram, I'll get back to you. I will get back to you. I got like a 2 to 3 day turnaround time on those messages, but
Sure.
I'll get back to you. We'll get connected. Don't worry. Swim Uphill, DOTORG is going to be our social media for the nonprofit. So like anything Swim Uphill alone is going to be Jamal Hill. Anything Swim Uphill, DOTORG is going to be the nonprofit. So try to
Awesome.
keep it super simple.
I love it. I love it. Cool. Well,
Yeah,
Jamal, thank you so much. This is awesome.
absolutely, Aggie. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Jamal, thanks so much for sharing that your awesome story, and you're doing such cool things. I'm so excited to have been able to feature you on the show. And y'all go check out the Swim Uphill Foundation. They're doing some really great things for kids who might not know how to swim, and it is a very necessary thing to know how to do because it can save your life. So go check out the Swim Uphill Foundation, which is linked below. Thanks so much for listening to this awesome episode, and that concludes our first round of Adventures with Aggie Road to Tokyo.